Hey guys, tonight we're sliding into a forgotten slice of Victorian England. You're in London, but not the polished tourist brochure version with gaslights and fancy hats. No, this is a damp back passage where boots squelch and mist swallows the light, the sort of place you'd never glance at twice during daylight. And tonight you're renting a space here. Your footsteps ring out as you cross wet cobblestones, gripping a bag with everything you possess. The street reeks of smoke, spilled ale and week-old fish innards. Somewhere close by, a cat hisses at something you're hoping isn't human. You arrive at the house, a tilting brick structure with a half-decayed door. The number overhead is painted on a scrap of old metal. Welcome to your new place. You won't credit this, but these spots called lodging houses were actually the superior choice for many working people. At least you've got a ceiling and a lock, better than the workhouse. Alright, before you get too settled, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. But only if your heart agrees. Tell me where you're tuning in from and what hour it is in your location. Lower the lights, get that fan running for some ambient sound, and let's ease into tonight's little journey. You knock, nobody responds. Knock once more. Finally, the door groans open by itself, so gradually it makes your shoulders tense. You step through. It reeks like boiled onions and damp socks. The corridor is lined with jackets and cloaks that haven't been retrieved in months. A gaslight wavers overhead, barely lighting the crooked staircase and the worn runner nailed down. You feel observed. You likely are. A clock ticks somewhere deep within, each tick like a nudge that time operates differently here. Slower, heavier. The floorboards squeak underfoot like they're alerting the others. New ones here. This house used to be a gentleman's home. 3 floors, sash windows, proper mouldings. But that was before his widow sold it off, and before it was divided into pieces. Each room split and split again, until now. It's a hive of strangers, each with a kettle, a trunk, and a locked door. There's no bell to press, just a grimy velvet cord hanging next to the stairs. You pull it, and hear a distant jangle, and then footsteps. The woman who appears at the top of the stairs looks carved from oak, solid, pale, like she hasn't been outdoors since the Queen took the throne. She's wearing a dark dress, buttoned to the throat, and her hair's pulled back so severely you can hear it squeak when she tilts her head. She doesn't greet you, just sniffs, points, and says, "You're the 8 shilling you nodded." She turns, muttering about lodgers who don't pay and how you'll get no second chance if you smoke in the bed. Her voice fades as she climbs, expecting you to follow. You do. Each step of the staircase moans beneath your boots. The handrail is sticky, not with polish. You pass shut doors. One has a child's chalk sketch near the bottom. Another has a deep scratch across it, like someone tried to claw their way free. You pretend not to see. Upstairs, the corridor is tighter. The carpet stops halfway, leaving bare planks and scattered coal dust. A curtain covers one doorway. Another has paper instead of glass in its window pane. A thread of candlelight leaks from under one door, along with the low hum of a lullaby, though nobody in there sounds comforted. The landlady pauses before the last room on the right. "This one's yours. Don't waste the matches." She opens the door. You steel yourself. The smell arrives first. Old bed linens, dried tea leaves, and something faintly metallic. The room is just wide enough for a cot, a wash basin, and a chair that's witnessed things no chair should witness. The wallpaper is peeling like sunburnt skin. A water stain curves across the ceiling like a sleeping lizard. On the nightstand, a single candle sits beside a cracked saucer. The bed has one pillow, flat, damp, in one corner. You try to speak. She's already halfway down the stairs. You're alone, and somehow you're not. You close the door gently, but even that seems to echo. Then the latch clicks. A tired metallic snap, like a final word. You set your bag down and its thud feels loud enough to rouse the queen. The walls here aren't just thin, they're permeable. Every sound has a life of its own. You sit on the edge of the bed. The springs complain, high-pitched and judgmental. You shift your weight and realise the mattress has a slight slope to it, as if someone once upon a time lay on it night after night, curling to the same corner like a withered leaf circling a drain. You find yourself involuntarily pulled to the spot by candlelight. You examine the rest of the room. There's graffiti carved into the back of the door. Initials, numbers, something in French. Probably someone boasting or bargaining. A few names have been scratched out so viciously the wood splintered. A narrow chest of drawers stands beneath a crooked mirror. You open one drawer and find no joke, half a playing card and a child's marble. The drawer smells of tobacco and lavender. You shut it quickly. Then there's a single nail on the wall for your coat. You hang it up and stare at it, wondering how many others have done the exact same thing, each thinking they'd stay here just for a little while. That's the most dangerous lie in a lodging house. Just until payday. Just until winter's done. The house always outlasts your plans. You move toward the window. It sticks. You force it open and peer into the alley below. There's a dim light in the building across, and a shadow passes. Just one, then vanished. No stars above, just a sheet of dark clouds holding in the city's breath. Downstairs, someone laughs. Sharp, cracked, almost bark-like. Then silence again. Not even a closing door. You light your candle. The flame catches slow, like it too is reluctant to be here. But when it finally stands tall, it casts trembling shadows across the room, revealing something new. A small patch of wallpaper near the bed has been peeled back deliberately. Someone was checking for bugs or concealing something. You gently lift the corner, nothing but cracked plaster. Still you smooth it back down like you've touched something sacred. Lodging house walls have memories. You're not the first to sleep here, and odds are you're not the first to check for listening holes. A faint knock comes. Not at your door. Somewhere else. Then footsteps. A murmured voice. Then the unmistakable scrape of a chair being dragged. Maybe someone's hosting a late-night visitor. Or maybe, just maybe, it's the room itself, shifting, stretching its bones. You decide to lie down, fully clothed. The blanket smells like pressed wool and stale bodies. You pull it to your chin and breathe shallow. The floorboards above creak in rhythm, footsteps pacing back and forth and back and forth. You wonder if that's the man who never exits his room, the one who gets food delivered through a slot in the door, the one nobody ever sees. Your eyelids grow heavy, but the room won't let you drift just yet. There's one more sound, soft and quick, like fingernails brushing wood. You sit up. Silence. Nothing there. You lie back this time facing the door. A cobweb dances in the candle draught, and just before sleep creeps in, you realise you never saw a key for the inside of your door. You wake to the scent of coal smoke and cabbage water. Morning in the lodging house doesn't arrive gently. It barges in through the cracks around the window and under the door. Someone is frying something downstairs that probably shouldn't be fried. Footsteps shuffle overhead. A baby cries. And then from somewhere along the corridor, a voice yells, "Gertrude, that's my bloody cup." You sit up in the bed that now feels like it's trying to trap you and stretch your limbs with a cautious stiffness because every surface here might be concealing a splinter, a bite, or a resident insect. As you swing your legs over the side of the bed, there's a shuffle in the hallway. Then a face appears, not at your door. Through your door. The peephole has no glass, just a round hole at eye level, and someone's peering in. You freeze. A breath, then silence. And then, like fog slipping away, the presence is gone. No footsteps, just that old sweet silence again. You get dressed fast. The floor is cold and your boots are damp from yesterday's journey. As you lace them up, your stomach growls, and you remember breakfast isn't included here, not unless you've struck some private arrangement with the landlady and those come with strings. You step out into the hallway and blink as your eyes adjust to the dimness. There she is, waiting, your landlady. She's in the same dress as last night, or maybe she owns 12 of the same. She's holding a steaming cup, her own breakfast, most likely, and offers a brief nod. "Alive, are you?" she says. "Good. Rent's due Thursday. No late. Not again. You haven't even been here 24 hours. You try to smile politely. She turns and floats away down the stairs, somehow managing to make her old wool slippers sound like boots on stone. You descend after her, careful not to step on the spots where the stair tread is worn to nothing. The hallway smells different now, more life in it. Doors are open. A woman with a red kerchief wraps her hair in the mirror by her door. A child darts past your legs barefoot. Someone coughs hard in the parlour. Then down near the kitchen a man sits slumped in a chair with his head in his hands. He doesn't look up. Nobody else seems to notice him. You step lightly into the cramped front room where a dented kettle sings on a small iron stove. Several tenants are already gathered. A man with soot-stained fingers grunts a hello. A girl you'd guess late teens, maybe younger, gives you a once-over judging what sort of lodger you'll be. You offer a polite nod. She turns away, unimpressed. The kettle spits, and then, as if summoned by scent alone, the landlady returns. "Tea's for the house," she says. "Bread's yours to find." You pour some into a cracked mug and step aside. That's when you spot him. Sitting perfectly upright by the window is an older gentleman in a waistcoat, reading a newspaper so aged the date is curled. His moustache is waxed, his boots polished. He doesn't look like he belongs here, which is exactly why nobody talks to him. His silence is armour, the kind worn by men who've fallen far and tend to rise again. Eventually, you find a seat by the stove, warming your hands around the mug. The girl leans in, nods toward the upstairs. She watches, she says softly. Even when she's not watching, you'll see. You raise an eyebrow. "Who?" She smiles. "Who do you think?" You take a slow sip of the tea, which tastes like it's been brewed with dust and suspicion. Still, it's warm, and in a place like this, warmth is currency. Around the room, tenants move like drifting ghosts, close but never touching. You're new, so they register your presence without acknowledging it, the way animals do when a new one is added to the cage. The landlady reappears with uncanny timing, holding a small tin ledger. She settles into the armchair like a crow onto a perch, flipping it open with fingers stained from ink or maybe from something else. One by one she calls names. Turner. A woman in slippers steps forward and hands over a coin purse. Evans. A cough answers. Then a man shuffles in from the hallway. When she says Miller, nobody responds. She tuts and draws a red line across the page, thick and final. You're close enough to see she's written beside it, 2 days late, worn. In the corner of that page, tiny lettering reads, 4 rooms, 14 lodgers, 3 warnings issued. You wonder what happens after 3? The girl next to you leans in again, voice low. The red ones get moved. If there's a bed in the coal room, that's where you'll sleep next. Your eyes flick up to the ceiling where soot from the stove has blackened the plaster like a dark cloud. You suddenly remember the man you saw slumped in the chair earlier. He's gone. Nobody mentions it. Later, upstairs, you pass your landlady again. She's inspecting a splintered stair rail with the intensity of a detective at a crime scene. Then, just under her breath, she mutters, "I told them no more boots on the 3rd step." What that means, you don't ask. Back in your room, something has shifted. Not moved exactly, just shifted. Your satchel is now a few inches from where you left it. The curtain is half drawn. When you remember pushing it fully open, a different smell hangs in the air. Not rot, not mould. Something faint, like old soap and violets. You don't mention it. That night as you lie in bed, staring at the ceiling stain that looks disturbingly like a screaming face. If you squint, you think back to the man downstairs with the waxed moustache. You hadn't seen him leave, and when you checked the hallway mirror afterward, there was only a reflection. Maybe he's like the furniture, passed from tenant to tenant. Or maybe he just rents. Silence and nothing else. Around midnight you hear footsteps outside your door again. Then a soft knock, 2 taps. You stay very still. Then another knock, this time at the room beside you. Then silence. Then a whisper. You still in there? Your heart kicks, but not from fear, from something else. Recognition. That voice, female, uncertain, was speaking to your room. Then soft footfalls retreat down the hall. You lie awake for hours, piecing together a truth you didn't want to admit. This house isn't watching you, it's waiting for you to fit in, and once you do, you might never leave. The next morning, your landlady informs you, with no hint of apology, that one of the rooms is available, if you'd prefer something less exposed. You don't ask what she means. You just follow her up the stairs, past a narrow window that lets in a sickly shaft of grey light to a door with a brass number 7 barely hanging by a screw. She doesn't offer a key, just says, "Don't break the basin," and walks off, her slippers flapping like wet birds on the floorboards. You step inside. This room is wider, a luxury, 2 windows, though only one opens, and even that requires the strength of a miner and the patience of a saint. There's a hearth too, though long unused, and a rusted kettle by the grate filled with dust and mouse droppings. The wallpaper here is different, a blue floral print that was once cheerful but now looks like it died decades ago. A square of mismatched paper near the corner suggests a hole patched hastily. You avoid looking too closely. There's a wardrobe, tall, wooden and humming. Not literally, but somehow it radiates presence. It looms in the corner like it knows something about you. You try the handle. Stuck. A tug. It gives a groan and opens with a breath of old perfume and something sour inside. A wire hanger, a broken umbrella and a tattered hat box with initials you don't recognise. You shut the door gently, too gently, as if not to wake something. You glance around and notice the previous tenant left behind a teacup on the windowsill, still stained with the shadow of its last brew. You sit on the bed. The mattress is better, if by better you mean less damp, and the view outside includes more than just bricks. You can see a sliver of a garden below, dead vines, a toppled wheelbarrow, a single shoe. You begin to unpack. As you fold your shirt into the drawer, you notice it sticks halfway. Something's caught. You reach inside and tug a paper. It's a note. The handwriting is scrawled, as if written in haste or trembling fear. It reads, "This room is not the better one. Ask about the man in the attic." No name, no date. Just that you stare at it for a while, then fold it and slip it behind the cracked mirror. From downstairs, a piano chord echoes wrong, abrupt and out of tune. You step into the hallway and peer towards the source. There's no piano in this house. You turn to go back inside and notice the door opposite. Yours is slightly ajar, no number, just the edge of a threadbare curtain moving in the draught. You approach slowly, lean in, and just before you touch the door, it shuts with a snap. Not a slamming gust, a snap, as if someone had been watching and chose that precise moment to close it. You back away. Suddenly, the small size of your new room seems like a blessing. Fewer walls, fewer secrets. That night you lie awake again. The wardrobe creaks every so often, like it's adjusting to your presence. The mirror fogs slightly, even though it's cold. You dream of vines creeping through cracks, of someone tapping Morse code through the wardrobe doors, and of a voice, calm, brittle, whispering. You chose the better room, didn't you? You wake with a jolt, not from a sound, but from the absence of it. The house is silent, oppressively so. No footsteps, no clatter from the kitchen, not even the usual chorus of early morning coughs. You sit up and glance toward the window. It's still dark, a kind of heavy pre-dawn grey that flattens everything into the same dull shade. You check the clock on the mantelpiece, stopped at 2:43. Its tick must have given up sometime in the night. Rubbing your eyes, you decide to fetch some water. The jug on your washstand is empty. The porcelain chipped. The landlady said there's a tap in the yard, which means going downstairs, which means passing that door across the hall. You open yours slowly, not wanting to wake anyone or anything. The hall greets you with the usual smell of coal dust and mildew, though now there's a hint of vinegar, as if someone's been cleaning or covering something up. You glance at the door opposite, still shut, still unmarked. As you descend, you pass the second-floor landing and hear a faint click behind you. You whirl around. Nothing but the hallway curtain flutters slightly without wind. Down in the yard, the cold hits your lungs like a slap. You find the outdoor tap, near a pile of ash buckets and broken crockery. The spout groans, then spurts water that smells faintly of iron. You fill the jug and turn to go. That's when you notice it. A second shoe. The same style, same size as the one you saw yesterday in the garden. You look up to the window of your room. It's open. You're sure you closed it. Back inside, the silence has broken. The house has resumed its gentle groaning and occasional knocks, as if it took a breath and let it out. You climb the stairs faster now, cradling the cold jug at your landing. The opposite door is open, just a sliver. This time, you don't approach. You step backward into your room, shut the door, and slide the bolt you found tucked behind the curtain rod. Yes, there is a bolt. You hadn't noticed it before. You sleep poorly. Shadows stretch strangely across the ceiling. At one point, you dream that the wardrobe opens and a man steps out, wearing your clothes, smiling with your mouth. When you wake, the wardrobe door is ajar, just slightly. You don't check inside. Instead, you open the note again, the one warning you about the attic. You hadn't seen any stairs to an attic, not yet. Later that afternoon, you overhear something, the landlady speaking in her usual stern tone to someone you can't see. No, the attic's locked for a reason. You want a room, you take the ones below. If he was meant to be gone, he'd be gone. Gone. The rest of the day you can't focus. You keep thinking about that wardrobe, about the note, about the missing tenants that nobody speaks of, about how easy it is in a place like this to disappear one shoe at a time. By dusk, you're back at the washstand, staring at yourself in the cracked mirror. You look different, paler, perhaps. Or maybe the mirror remembers too many faces outside your door. Footsteps pause, and then softly a knock. 2 taps, same as before. You freeze, but this time a second knock follows, then a whisper. Wrong room. The footsteps fade. Your candle flickers out, and for a few long seconds you swear the wardrobe is breathing. You wake to the sound of chalk on slate. Not a child's scribble. No, this is slower, rhythmic, calculated. The kind of writing that sounds like it wants to be heard. You sit up fast, heart already thudding. Morning sunlight, such as it is, filters through the grimy window and paints your floorboards in pale yellow. You stare at the wardrobe, closed. But wasn't it slightly open last night? You slide out of bed and press your ear to the door. The hallway beyond is quiet, but you know better now. Silence isn't safe here. Silence listens. You dress quickly, deciding to keep your boots on today. Even indoors, the floor creaks less when you're ready to run. Downstairs, the communal table is already surrounded. Lodgers sip weak tea and nibble bread like prisoners rationing their last meal. Nobody speaks, not until the landlady enters with a small tin box. She sets it on the table with a clunk, opens the lid. Inside, a stack of yellowing cards, each with a name, a room number, and a set of rules printed in fading ink. You recognise yours immediately. Room 7. No fires without permission, no guests after sundown. 1 coal allowance per week. You glance at the others. Room 3 has 7 rules. Room 9 has 10. And 1 card, just marked attic, has a single line. No entry, even if invited. You stare. The landlady snaps the lid shut. Anyone found breaking the terms, she says, will be removed. No refund, no exceptions. She says this with the calm certainty of someone who's enforced it before. And you don't doubt that removed means exactly what it sounds like. Later, as you climb the stairs, you notice something new. Above the second-floor landing is a thin door, smaller than the rest. You hadn't seen it before. It blends into the wood panelling, barely marked, except for a small keyhole and 3 rusted nail heads in the shape of a triangle. You reach up, locked. No surprise. But what is surprising is the faint trace of chalk dust along the floor beneath it, like someone had been copying something through the cracks. You retreat to your room and sit on the bed, feeling the air shift around you. It is crucial to grasp the actual mandates. Not the standard printed clauses, but the genuine ones. Because the landlady's tenancy stipulations extend far beyond mere compliance with noise regulations. They are fundamentally about dominance. Her property functions as a systematic entity, and every injunction serves as a measure, not of character, but of subordination. Are you able to adhere without questioning the motive? Can you adjust without expressing dissatisfaction? You attempt to recall every statement she has issued to date. No heavy footwear on the 3rd riser. Do not crack the porcelain sink. Payment is required by Thursday. However, none of these guidelines are documented. They are uttered, assessed, observed, and enforced without fail. You open the closet, half expecting some new discovery inside. Nothing has changed. Still, you scrutinize the rear panel, specifically focusing on a flaw in the timber, approximately at your eye level. It is darker than the surrounding wood, marginally protruding. You press your digit against it. It gives way, minimally, like a concealed actuator. You perceive a faint mechanical sound from beyond the wall, followed by a rush of air from above. You retract your hand instantly, your heart accelerating. The airstream is now undeniable, a slender current of cold air filtering downward. It carries the fragrance of something long undisturbed. Aged lumber, candle wax, soot, and a faint hint of desiccated blooms. You look once more at the closet, still shut, still inanimate. But your hearing is focused on the source of that preceding click. You proceed back to the corridor. The hatch leading to the attic remains closed, its clustered, triangular pattern of nails reflecting the morning light like a deterrent. You lean closer, gently placing your ear against the wood. A sound, muted, like fabric shifting. Then silence. Then a vocal sound, weak. A female voice stating, "I did not agree to this." You draw back. Voices originating from the attic were not included in any rental contract. You descend rapidly, uncertain if you are pursuing clarification or evading it. Regardless, the ground floor offers greater security. At least individuals are awake here, speaking, creating noise, existing in the reception area. A few residents have assembled once more. The young woman wearing the scarlet scarf is peeling a bruised piece of fruit with a blade. It appears unnecessarily sharp for such a task. She notices your reaction and gives a slight grin. "You heard it, didn't you?" she inquires, without turning her head. You hesitate. Heard what exactly? She severs the apple's outer layer with a single quick motion. They invariably hear it by the 2nd week. That is when the structure begins to probe your identity. You start to formulate a reply, but another voice interrupts, belonging to the soot-smudged man near the hearth. "It is advisable not to listen too intently," he advises, his gaze fixed on the flames. "People disappear more quickly that way." The girl lets out a soft laugh, especially those who consider themselves unique. You offer an apology and walk toward the rear passage, the section of the dwelling that accesses the proprietor's private area. Not that anyone has ever observed it open, but perhaps the resolutions lie within the stipulations, the authentic ones. The passage is darker than the rest, illuminated by a solitary flickering gas fixture. A skewed portrait frame on the wall captures your attention. Inside, a printed roster of house regulations behind fractured glass. You recite them softly to yourself. Maintain quiet after nightfall. No visitors without express permission. Rent payment due in advance. No extensions. Damages will be covered by the initial deposit. And you stop. The concluding line is distinctive, rendered in smaller characters, nearly obscured in the failing light. If you should receive a summons to the upper floor, refrain from acknowledging it. Your breath condenses on the glass surface. Back on the upper floor, you find yourself compelled once more toward that limited access door above the second level. Not with the intention of opening it, no, merely to observe, to understand. But this time the door is partially open. Not fully ajar, not thrown wide, just slightly cracked. Enough for you to perceive that beyond it lies a stairway, steep and narrow, ascending into a volume of air scented with wax, aged dust, and something delicately sweet. You should withdraw. Instead, you step ahead, 1 foot, then the next. The riser groans under your mass, each ascent sounding like an inquiry. Halfway up, you pause and look back. The passage below you is vacant. Yet on the landing stands your landlady, perfectly still, observing you. She does not speak out, does not shift position, but her countenance conveys everything. You have just violated a mandate you were unaware of. And the upper chamber. It was expecting your arrival. The atmosphere shifts as you pass the threshold. It is heavier, quieter. Time itself appears to condense, as if the attic exists just outside the standard spatial confines of the structure beneath. You pause on the highest step, where a solitary low beam nearly brushes your forehead. Forward, the restricted room extends further than it logically should, longer than the property's foundation below suggests. The floorboards creak, yet not beneath your steps. No, these sounds are slower, originating elsewhere, as if the attic is drawing a breath, reacting to your presence. You examine the space. Dust particles hang suspended in the air like fog trapped inside a container. The roof slopes deeply, pressing downward with a sort of passive threat. There are chests up here, old containers secured with iron latches, stacked like forgotten crypts. One has been opened. Inside, a row of identical accounting books secured with discoloured fabric ties. You advance 1 step. The planks sigh. A faint rustling sound responds from deeper within the shadows. You become motionless. Then, from behind a veil of yellowed cotton at the far extremity, a voice murmurs, masculine, frail. I instructed her never to lease the blue chamber again. You retreat, but the attic space has reconfigured itself. The access to the staircase is no longer visible. Your hands reach out for something recognizable. Walls, structural supports, anything. You locate a writing desk instead. Small, with a worn leather writing pad and an ink container that has dried out. There is 1 piece of parchment on the surface, its top border curled inward as if attempting to retreat. You read, Room 7, previously occupied by J.H., vacated following infraction, unresolved. Beneath that sentence, in different handwriting, your tension increases. Reflective surface noted, motion without an observed source. The closet. You attempt to move, but your feet feel anchored. From somewhere behind you, the voice returns, nearer now. She violated the mirror regulation. That is why the upper room summoned her return. You turn suddenly. No one is present. Just another storage trunk, this one open and empty. You move quickly back toward where the stairs should be, your hands dragging against the wall. And then, just as the darkness feels poised to collapse inward, A hand grasps your forearm. Firm, tangible force pulls you. Suddenly, you are in the passageway again. The small door slams shut behind you with a solid wooden impact that vibrates the floorboards. You drop to your knees, breathing heavily. A pair of shoes is visible in front of you, polished, well used. You look upward. It is the man with the moustache from the common area, the one who never speaks. Now he does. You should not have ascended, he states, but it is fortunate that you returned. His voice is parched, like the turning of aged paper. Then he leans closer. She is assessing you. "Who?" you manage to whisper. He offers a weary expression. "The structure," he says. And without another utterance, he walks away. Upward, not descending. You do not sleep that night. The closet remains closed. The reflective glass mists over spontaneously. And the regulations, you begin to understand, are not in place to shield the building from your presence. They are there to shield your person from the building. By the morning light, your thoughts are unravelling like the frayed edge of a worn garment. You do not exit your room immediately. You remain seated, fully clothed, observing the closet, anticipating it to move. It remains still, but the silence surrounding it feels watchful, inquisitive, and eventually physical need takes precedence. You descend to the cooking area, but today the house has altered its routine. The heating element is cool, the boiling vessel is absent, no one is seated at the main table. You glance out the rear window. No cart, no climbing plants, no solitary shoe, just the sombre London morning pressing against the glass. You perceive voices coming from the reception area. You move toward them. Inside. A man you have not encountered before is standing by the heat source, tall, with an overly clean neckpiece and a notepad in his grip. He appears like someone who does not belong, which ironically makes him the most questionable person in the whole dwelling. He is conversing with the landlady in low tones. You cannot catch all the specifics, but you hear enough. Repeated disappearances, questionable entries in the rent accounting book. The landlady moves her head in denial. Untruths, tales originating from the residents. They fail to comprehend how operations are managed here. He makes an annotation in his book. You clear your throat. Both heads turn toward you. The man examines you thoroughly. His gaze is unnaturally steady. A new renter? You confirm this with a slight nod. "Have you experienced anything out of the ordinary?" he inquires, like a physician preparing to utilize bloodsuckers. You contemplate your response. The upper room, the voice, the closet, the handwritten note. Then you respond simply, no more than one would anticipate. He seems satisfied with this. He jots down something. "Should any situation change," he instructs, "inform me. I will be nearby." He hands you a small card. It bears no name, only an emblem. A 3-dot triangle identical to the nails above the attic entry. You slip it into your clothing. The landlady observes your actions throughout, smiling, yet without kindness. Later that day, you observe that the hallway adjacent to room 3 smells strongly of disinfectant and roses, a concerning indication that typically denotes a resident has departed unexpectedly. You rap gently. No response. The door is slightly ajar. You peer inside. It is empty, but not tidy. A solitary cup lies inverted on the floor. You withdraw. In your own space. You finally examine the reflective surface again. The fault line has lengthened, and behind the fractured separation, your reflection subtly drifts out of synchronization, a fractional delay. You raise your hand. Your mirrored image performs the same, but only after a brief pause. You look intently into your own eyes and feel the cumulative presence of every previous resident observing through the pane. You whisper, "I am still present," and your reflection responds with a whispered gesture, not in spoken language but with breath, misting over just sufficiently to create a singular shape before dissipating. Regulation 4. You check the original card. There is no Regulation 4. The written roster concludes at 3. That evening, while resting in your bed, you recall a statement the mustached man made. She is assessing you. What if Regulation 4 is unwritten because it varies for each person renting? What if Regulation 4 is the one you contravene unintentionally? You retrieve the card he provided, the 3-dot triangle. You speculate if you have already failed the evaluation, if the attic permitted your departure because it has not yet completed its business with you, and somewhere deep within the structure, beyond every strained timber and splintered step, something advances a page. The following morning, the laboured breathing returns, not your own. The passage is once more filled with wheezing, deep, moist congestion, noises that resonate off the decorative wall covering like suppressed ordnance. It commences in the early hours, initially from Chamber 2, then Chamber 5, then from beneath the stairwell. Diverse tones, distinct tempos, but always that same wet disturbance. You sit on your bed, still covered by a thin coverlet, listening to it intensify, a collective sound of respiratory organs in protest. Downstairs you encounter the young woman with the scarlet scarf again. She is bent over a wash basin, rinsing a piece of cloth, stained with blood. Her eyes show red irritation. Tainted air, she murmurs, always intensifies following a heavy mist. You look through the window. The heavy mist has not dispersed since your arrival. In fact, you are unsure if you have ever witnessed actual daylight here. I believed it was merely the coal smoke, you remark. She laughs, without mirth. Coal does not cause you to cough up blood. She dips the cloth again and continues. They claim it is the fine dust from the aged interior surfaces. It irritates your throat while you sleep. She does not look up. That is when you start to notice the sheer number of people now afflicted. Not just 1 or 2 individuals, but almost everyone. The young mother on the 2nd floor, the elderly maritime man in Chamber 8. Even the reserved gentleman with the groomed moustache has begun clearing his throat more frequently. And the landlady never coughs, never even shows minor symptoms. You see her in the corridor later, securing a time-measuring device around her wrist, one of those miniature items with a face discoloured by age. She observes your gaze and smiles. New residences require an adjustment period, she states. The lungs are the initial part to complain. That night, you awaken abruptly, gasping for breath. Your throat is painfully dry, not from illness, but from dehydration, as if you have inhaled a generous quantity of ash. You ignite your candle, your hands unsteady, and fumble for the water container. Empty. You could have sworn you refilled it before retiring. You step cautiously into the passage. Quiet, save for the persistent coughing. It surrounds you now. You proceed toward the cooking area. The water fixture emits a high-pitched sound, then sputters. No water flows. The boiling vessel is again missing. You hear a sound originating from behind you. Soft foot movements. You turn. No one is present except for a door you have not seen previously, standing open just beyond the food storage area. Inside, a narrow space barely larger than a storage closet. A sleeping platform, a small table, a record book affixed to the wall, a catalogue of names and dates recorded in graphite. You squint, allowing your vision to focus. Each name is succeeded by an emblem, a 3-dot triangle, or a single diagonal mark, or nothing at all. Your name is absent from the list, but you see the name of the girl with the red scarf, and adjacent to it, a triangle. The identical triangle from the card contained in your pocket. You step backward. A floorboard groans, and suddenly the door to that peculiar small room is forcefully shut. You rush up the stairs, your respiratory system struggling, and collapse back into your room. The reflective surface instantly clouds, as though it was anticipating this moment. And the closet door, it is again separated by a few centimetres. This time you do not close it, because a part of you recognises it was not an accidental occurrence. Morning arrives. Slowly. If one can accurately describe it as such. The illumination entering your window is more dull grey than golden, dense with urban smoke and something less natural in origin. You do not rise immediately. You focus on the sounds. Silence. No laboured breathing, no footfalls, no door impacts or corridor murmurs. You sit up gradually, cautious of the tranquillity. It is not the comforting kind. It is the type that exerts pressure like a breath being held. Your footwear remains at the base of your bed, but now it is dry and polished. You did not polish them yourself. You open the closet simply to verify. Nothing apparent on the initial inspection. Then, tucked into the rear corner, you spot it. A small metal container with a velvet ribbon wrapped around the cover. A label hangs from the ribbon. A single word, inhale. You open it. Inside, a dry bundle of aromatic plants. Lavender, perhaps, and another substance. Camphor, pulverized charcoal. You cautiously smell it. It has the odour of restorative medicine, or of a fresh morning. You return to the hallway, half expecting to encounter the girl with the red scarf. She's absent. Her door is open. Her chamber is vacant. No travel bags, no footwear, not even the wash basin. Just a slight indentation in the mattress, shaped as though someone sat perfectly still for an extended duration. At the far end of the passage, the landlady is cleaning a framed picture. It depicts a sailing vessel at sea, its sails damaged in a windless environment. She departed early, the landlady states, without looking at you. Where did she go? You inquire. To a more peaceful residence? She replies. One with improved air quality. You swallow with difficulty. Did she leave any correspondence? No, the landlady responds. Then she turns, offering a slight smile. But she did leave her access key. You look down. She is holding it in her hand. And for a moment you are convinced, completely certain, it is not the girl's key. It is yours. She deposits it into the pocket of her protective garment and moves away. That night, the coughing returns, but only one cough. Yours. It begins softly. A minor irritation, then a vibrating sound. Then a profound exertion from the depths of your chest, as if something internal is being extracted by non-physical forces. You ignite the candle. The flame bends laterally, not from air movement, but from expelled air. You rush to the reflective surface. You look terrible, but not because of sickness, but because your mirrored image is no longer coordinating with you. Your hands ascend. The image delays. Your mouth opens. The reflection remains unchanged until it does, and whispers, "Breathe more slowly or she will approach." You stumble backward. The closet emits a creaking sound. You turn rapidly, but the door is still closed. Then a soft tap at your door. Respectful, timed, 3 distinct taps. You recognise that specific rhythm now. It does not belong to a fellow resident. It belongs to someone who never truly departs this residence. You do not respond. The tapping resumes. Then a voice, the landlady's. Checking. The door handle rotates, but you did not hear a locking sound. You move quickly toward the door and brace your mass against it just as the handle turns. A click, a twist, then a halt on the opposite side. Silence. Then her voice again, soft, almost singing, overly sweet. All renters must grant access for evaluation of health and sanitation. You remain silent. Refusal, she adds delicately, is classified as an infraction. The handle rotates again with greater force this time, but your body maintains its closure. You are unsure why you resist, only that permitting her entry now feels definitive. The opposing pressure lessens, then her footfalls slowly withdraw. Not down the staircase, but past your door, toward the far section of the passage where the girl with the red scarf previously resided. You release your breath too soon, because you suddenly hear another door creak. Open. Not hers, but yours. Behind you, you turn. The closet door is fully open. No accompanying sound, no movement of air. Simply open. And resting on the internal panel, suspended where a coat would hang, is a small piece of parchment. New, immaculate, folded once. You approach deliberately, take it, and unfold it. Water closet is available. What? You stop. A jest? A warning? A deception? You slide it into your pocket and descend. Perhaps you do require the outdoor sanitation facility. Perhaps fresh air is the one element this house cannot contain. The exterior area is still damp with liquid and the unpleasant odour of burnt material. The outdoor facility stands tilted in its corner, the wooden access panel slightly ajar. You look around the vicinity. No movement, no vocal sounds, no footwear visible. You enter. It is exactly as you anticipate. Stone foundation, fractured seat, a spider, exhibiting more confidence than you currently possess. You secure the barrier, you sit down, and there, carved into the interior vertical surface, is a communication barely visible unless the light strikes it precisely. If you are reading this, she has not yet claimed you. You freeze. Below that, a subsequent sentence. Search beneath the residue in the coal storage area. You exit swiftly, glancing back toward the main structure. Still silent. You cross to the small attached shelter where fuel is kept, the stockpile half depleted and coated in residue. You kneel, pushing your hand through the material. Cold particles irritate your fingers. Then something solid, a metal container sealed with a length of corroded string. You force it open. Inside, folded pages, letters, partial documents, payment slips, a cluster of red hair secured with azure thread. And at the bottom, a photographic image, faded but adequately clear. The girl with the red scarf smiling, with the landlady positioned behind her. Not in the present era, not recently. The photograph is dated 1887. You stare intently. You must be mistaken. But the landlady looks identical. Exactly the same. A distant train horn sounds faintly. You close the container, slide it back into the pile, and clean your hands on your coat. And that is when you observe it on your palm, in the dark residue of the coal ash, a 3-dot triangle, as though someone pressed it there. Or as if the house has simply left its signature. You rub at your palm, using your sleeve, but the triangle does not disappear. It is not surface drawn, it is ingrained, as though the fine particles settled into a marking that already existed beneath the skin, waiting to be revealed. You stagger back into the structure, your footwear heavy with coal dust, your heart beating in a rhythm that does not feel entirely native to you. The corridor greets you with its characteristic mixture of dampness, wallpaper pattern, and disapproval. But now the atmosphere feels altered. You feel altered. Observed, yes, but also designated. Claimed. Your room door is fully open. You did not leave it in that state. Inside, everything appears undisturbed, the bedding still disorderly, the candle consumed down to a remnant, but the reflective surface, the mirror has changed. There are fingerprints now, numerous marks, smeared across the glass, smaller than a typical adult's, not matching yours. And, in the condensed vapour at the top, someone has scratched 3 irregular letters. J.H. The initials from the attic logbook. You sit on the bed. The wooden frame groans beneath you in a sound you no longer believe is entirely natural. You require information now. You proceed to the reception area. The moustached gentleman is present again, consuming a beverage that no one prepared. You approach, extending your ash-covered hand. What is the meaning of this? He does not look up. It signifies that she has become aware of you. Who is she? You demand. At this, he finally looks up, and for the first time you perceive something in his gaze. A profound weariness that extends beyond simple lack of sleep, beyond the passage of time. Something ancient. She's not the landlady, he says. Not really. That is just the shape she wears for us, for the ones who stay too long, who comply too easily. You frown. I thought the regulations were supposed to shield us. He smiles, a mix of sorrow and amusement. No, the regulations are how she gauges you, what makes you flinch, what seduces you, what you will resort to when the heating source is gone. You take a seat beside him, the room swaying just a bit. Why does nobody ever leave? You inquire. They attempt it, but the structure retains the memory, always tracking them down. He raises his cup to his mouth, then lowers it. I was once like you, he says. Fresh, quick, inquisitive. You look at his suit, tidy and conventional. You do not resemble the others. He laughs softly, because I am not a lodger anymore. You pause. What are you then? His smile disappears. I am a component of the house now. A long, quiet moment. Then he says softly, depart, while it still permits it. You have observed too much, but perhaps not everything yet. That is your sole opportunity. You nod, heart accelerating. You get up, stepping back into the passage. You pass the landlady on the staircase. She smiles, but this time you do too, because now you are observing her and you are beginning to wonder if she is the one running this establishment or just another resident who lingered too long. You spend the rest of the day simulating reading, simulating napping, simulating not to notice that the looking glass clouds over whenever you gaze into it, even when the temperature is low, and still simulating not to hear footsteps that halt right outside your entrance, then disappear. By evening you have decided you are going to test the boundaries, not the documented ones, the fundamental ones. You begin with the bathing. The building technically possesses an antique metal tub kept in the pantry under the steps, next to a sack of grain and a pile of rodent-chewed devotional books. Based on the official codes, it is to be utilised only on Saturday evenings and only after signing the washing register. Tonight is Wednesday. You descend when the building is mostly quiet. One boarder snores, another shuffles playing cards. Alone. The landlady is not visible anywhere. You locate the tub easily, pulling it to the fireplace, which still holds the heat from dying embers. The oven shrieks as you coax it into activity. You fill the pot, then the second, then the third. The water releases a gentle vapour. The house groans in objection. You take off your footwear, shirt, and ease yourself into the basin. It is too small, and the base is misshapen, but the warmth penetrates your skin like pardon, until you hear it, the sound of nails tapping. Not outside, within the material, behind the chimney. You freeze, then a scraping, a pulling sound, like something moving just beyond the plaster, something lengthy and slow and near. You stand up, the water splashes, the pot whistles, on the cooking surface, the tapping stops. You wait 10 seconds, 20. Then, from right behind you, a whisper near your ear. It is not your appointed time. You whirl around. Nothing. The water in the tub has become motionless, totally still. You quickly put on your shirt, still damp, and withdraw to the corridor. The register has been moved. It is now resting on the second step, open to the page for Wednesday. Your name is written there in ink. You did not write it. The landlady appears in view at the peak of the stairs, wearing the same black garment she has worn since the day you arrived. Her voice is level. No wash tonight, she says. You nod and step back. In your chamber, the looking glass is already obscured. On it, a new word marked in reversed letters, greedy. You wipe it clean, then regard your reflection. Behind you, the cabinet groans open. You gaze at the cabinet. It does not move again, but it does not need to. The gap in the door is wide enough now to suggest an offering or a caution. The interior is dark, too dark for the amount of illumination in the space. You should shut it. You do not. Instead, you sit back on the bed, wrapped in your moist shirt, and contemplate what just occurred. The basin, the auditory experience, your identity in the document. Someone or something is recording your activities, not merely observing, documenting, which implies the house is not just sentient, it is administrative. You let out a laugh, a small bitter sound. Naturally, even supernatural entities in Victorian England cannot resist paperwork. You walk back and forth in the room for a while. The timber beneath your feet knows your rhythm now and creaks only at the conclusion of each turn. You consider the document and about that secondary pot, how it was already warm when you reached for it. Someone else was attempting to wash before you. But who? Most of the other tenants are absent now, vanishing, one by one like dust swept beneath the floorboards. You glance at the cabinet again. It is still ajar. You take a clothes hanger from within and prop the entrance wide. If something is going to emerge, you would prefer to see it approaching on the rear panel of the cabinet. Something has shifted. You lean closer. A faint etching now runs across the wood grain, inscribed with something sharp. You trail your fingers over it. It is another three-sided shape, smaller this time, with initials inside. J.H. Once more you murmur the characters aloud, and the looking glass across the room mists instantly. You step toward it this time, no handprints, no reversed words, just one image traced in the moisture. A teacup, the symbol of welcome and of toxin. You hurry to the main space. The oven is lit. A pot whistles. The man with the moustache is gone. In his position, a single teacup sits on the surface. Vapour spirals delicately above it. You approach slowly. The landlady steps in from the corridor. No sound of her shoes. She is just suddenly present. She notices the cup. Someone has earned their compensation, she says casually. You do not touch it. She nods, satisfied. Very good, she says. Very sensible. Then she moves away. You wait until she is gone, then take up the cup and throw its contents into the fireplace. It hisses black against the embers. Back in your room, something is waiting. The three-sided shape on the cabinet has deepened like it has been traced again. The looking glass is empty now, and on your cushion rests a card, identical to before, 3 dots. But now a fourth has been added off to the side. Not part of the three-sided shape. Separate, solitary. You hold it in your palm and comprehend. Someone new has violated a principle. This time, it was not you, and this time the house is going to show you what ensues. The house is louder now, not in volume, but in presence. The floorboards seem to sigh longer when you traverse them. Doors groan open before your hand connects with the handle. The looking glass mists in perfect synchronicity with your thoughts. You no longer feel like a visitor. You feel like a sample under glass. The card with the 4th dot rests on your nightstand. You gaze at it long after the candle burns down. It has not relocated, but somehow it feels heavier. Someone else has violated a principle, and the house intends for you to observe the outcome. You do not slumber. You listen. At some point in the early morning, the sound arrives. Not a tap this time, a dragging, slow, irregular, with small jolts and scrapes in between like something or someone being pulled. You slide from the bed and open your door just a fraction. The hallway is almost entirely dark, save for the weak illumination of a gas lamp near the steps. Then you see it. A form collapsed on the ground, being hauled by the ankles, head tilted back, hair grazing the floorboards. One limb dragging weakly behind. The body disappears into the stairwell, leaving behind nothing but the smudge of something wet and without colour. You grip the doorframe, then movement. Another form steps into the light. Not the landlady. Too tall, too thin. Its face is wrapped in fabric as though to conceal the features or keep them from detaching. Its fingers are covered, but the coverings are too tight, stretched over something skeletal. It pauses, sniffs the atmosphere like an animal, then looks directly at your door. You close it quickly, heart pounding. Silence. Then, gently, a voice through the door. Not a whisper, clearly audible, feminine. It is your time to observe, not to caution. You do not move until sunrise. When you finally open your door, there is no sign, no drag marks, no moisture. But the scent of medicinal oils lingers faintly in the air, like aged cloth and funeral homes. You go down to the cooking area. The oven is cold once more. On the table, a new document, smaller red cover. You open it. Inside, only one name. Room 5. Violation. Unsanctioned correspondence. And beneath that, Observer Room 7. Your breath catches. They are monitoring you, too. Your silence, your compliance, your utility. Someone sent a letter past the house and you did not prevent them. In the main corridor, a small wooden container appears next to the steps. It was not present yesterday. It is marked outgoing. You open it empty, but the base is lined with score marks. Not from fingernails, from something else. A shadow passes behind you. You turn. The landlady is there, cleaning her hands with a fabric that is far too red for drying kitchenware. She smiles. Mail is slow, she says, but the house always reads it first. Then she walks away, and for the first time you realise this location does not just confine bodies, it confines language. It consumes them, and it is starting to read you, word by word. You spend the day in silence, not for lack of ideas, but out of fear. They will escape that somehow, even your breathing will communicate too much to the house. The very surfaces seem to vibrate now, as though they are listening closely, watching for fractures in your determination. In the passage, a new odour has settled. Burned paper and aromatic herbs, sweet and sharp simultaneously. You inspect room 5. It is sealed, not locked, sealed. A strip of aged parchment is glued across the doorframe, handwritten in dark ink, redacted. No initials, no payment, due date. Just that one word. You tap once, softly. The rebound dies before it reaches your ears. You retreat to your own chamber and shut the door carefully, sit on the bed. The card with the 4th dot is gone. In its position, a new one. This one has 5 dots, not in a 3-sided shape, not in a straight line. Dispersed, agitated, like a hand threw ink onto the page. In alarm, you turn it over. 2 words she knows. You breathe out slowly. The stakes have increased. You are no longer a passive viewer. You are a component of the system now, and a system does not rest. You light a candle. Its flicker dances along the surfaces like shadows performing for an audience. You glance at the looking glass, obscured again this time. No symbols, no images. Just a break. A genuine one, jagged like something struck from behind the glass. You lean in closely, and then, just for a moment, you see a face that is not yours. Female. Vacant eyes, lips sewn shut. You stagger backward, upsetting the chair. The break vanishes. You wait for the house to react. It does not. Instead, you hear voices in the corridor. 2 of them. Not tenants, not the landlady. Men. Firm, concise speaking, official sounding. You press your ear to the door. Missing persons report. Too many coincidences. The loft, sir. We should. And then the unmistakable snap of the loft latch. You fling open your door. The hallway is empty. No voices, no men. But now the loft door is slightly open again. That same unhealthy triangle of rusted nails gleaming in the low light. You turn away, then stop. At your feet, a sheet torn from a document, still warm. You pick it up. It states, Room 7 loss, compliant, observes well, may ascend, your hands tremble. You have been evaluated all along, submission, silence, observation. You look back at the loft, then down at the page, then back to the corridor. The landlady stands at the far end, pale, emotionless. She raises one hand slowly and taps her head once, twice, 3 times, as if to say, consider carefully. Then she vanishes into the material. Not a visual deception, not a hidden entry. She simply folds into the plaster like a page being turned. You are no longer afraid of the loft. You are afraid of what occurs if you do not proceed, because the worst thing in this house is not being seen, it is being overlooked. You do not recall choosing to go upward. Your legs make the decision for you, movement after movement, the flight of steps extending longer than it ever should. The atmosphere thinning as though the house is extracting it from your lungs intentionally. Every board moans a caution, every nail shakes. Still, you ascend. The loft door is open, waiting. You hesitate at the peak, gazing into that same grey dust, heavy air. It smells not of decay, but of memory. Old cloth, ink, and something faintly sweet, like sugar gone old. This time you bring a candle. The flame flickers but remains stable, as though the house has chosen to let you see. Inside. The room is almost neat. The chests are gone, the documents piled tidily along one surface. A table stands in the middle with 2 seats. One is unoccupied, one is not. The man with the moustache sits across from it, hands folded neatly. He looks up when you enter and gives a small nod. Room 7, he says. You returned. You begin to speak, but he raises a hand. No need to justify yourself. No one ever resists. Twice. You move closer. What is this place? He gestures to the empty seat. Records, gatherings, memory. Everything that was once alive in this house comes here, appear to be written down. You sit. The wood is cold and dust swirls under your fingers. The documents on the table are labelled in tidy names, rules, replacements. He turns open the top one. You see pages of handwriting, line after line of dates, initials, notes in the margin and near the base. J.H. Looking Glass. Violation. Reassigned? Reassigned? You inquire. He gives a small smile. Every house requires its caretakers. He closes the book slowly, respectfully. When the landlady becomes weak, someone occupies her position. That is Rule 4, the one no one documents. You stand so quickly, your chair almost falls. She is not. She is not human. He laughs softly. She is not one individual. She is many, accumulated, preserved, poured into the surfaces, the foundations, the codes. The house is her. She is the house. You feel disoriented. And me? He looks at you sadly. You are progressing quite well. The candle flame sputters low. Something moves at the boundary of the light. A shape, thin and stooped, emerges from the far corner. The landlady's shape, but her face is half shadow, half yours. You stumble backward. No. He does not move to stop you. Just sighs. She is weary, you see. Been here too long. The house favours new tenants. It nourishes better when the caretaker still recalls what it is like to take a breath. The shape steps closer. Her dress rustles like dry foliage. Her eyes. Your eyes reflect the candlelight in dull yellow-brown. Time for scrutiny, she says. Her voice overlaps with your own. You drop the candle. The light dies. Darkness consumes everything but her silhouette, and when she reaches for your hand, you feel not skin, but plaster. Cool, unyielding, and conclusive. You jump awake in your bed. Sunlight, true clean golden, pours through the window. For a moment you do not move. You watch the dust particles swirl lazily in the ray of light. Your heart pounds in your chest, but everything around you looks ordinary. No haze, no looking glass obscuring, no open cabinet. Just Your small, crooked room with its groaning floorboards and water-stained ceiling. You sit up slowly. Your clothes are folded neatly on the chair. Your boots, still marked, still yours, are by the surface. You get up, checking the cabinet. Shut, silent. The looking glass clear. You reach out and touch it. Cold glass. No marks, no pores. You breathe out. Was it an illusion? A sickness? You step into the corridor. The gaslight glows, steady. The paper on the walls curls gently at the edges. Downstairs, someone whistles off-key. You catch the scent of toasted bread. You descend. The main space is active again. A young woman, new clearly, sits at the table, awkwardly stirring tea. An older man you do not recognise reads a newspaper inverted. Someone laughs. The landlady is not visible anywhere. You approach the document on the mantel, open it. Names, payment, due dates, all current. Then your name crossed out beside it in a neat hand. Promoted. You blink. You open your mouth to ask the girl at the table something, but she looks up first. You are the new landlady, are you not? You freeze. She does not say it with fear, just curiosity, like she is trying to guess the name of a plant. You shake your head. I am just a tenant. She smiles politely, but as you turn to exit the room, she says something softly, more to herself than to you. That is what the last one stated. You return to your room in a trance. The looking glass is still clear, but your reflection looks wrong. Not incorrect, just not quite you. And when you speak aloud, to hear your own voice, there's something else underneath it. A tone not your own, a cadence you have heard before. You laugh, just to relieve the tension, and it sounds exactly like her. The following day, you locate the document in your room, not the tenant document, the other one. Red cover, heavy. It opens easily to an empty page at the top, a space for a name, then room number, duration of stay, final use. You stare at it for a long duration, and then, without truly reflecting, you pick up the pen that has been left on your cushion. You begin to write. The house sighs in approval. Somewhere downstairs, a knock at the door. A new lodger has arrived. The house welcomes its new tenant the same way it always does, with stillness and dust. You observe from the landing as he steps inside. Early 20s, perhaps. Shabby coat. Eyes that flicker too quickly, as if he is already memorising escape routes. The same expression you had when you first walked in. He does not notice you. No one does now. Unless you wish them to? The landlady's room is yours, though you have not touched the bed. It smells like dried aromatic herbs and something older. The cabinet in that room never opens unless you request it to. The looking glass does not obscure any more. You think that should comfort you. It does not. Downstairs, the new lodger signs the document. The pages flutter without a current of air. The pen dips itself in ink. No one finds this unusual. You watch him as he ascends the steps. He stops on the third step, looks down, shakes his head, continues. He selects room 3, the same room that was sealed, the one with the aged parchment. Redacted? Apparently. The house has decided it is ready to be utilised again. You observe his first evening. He performs all the actions they always perform. Opens the window. It will not close completely again. Checks beneath the bed. Something clicks when he lifts the cover, unpacks too rapidly, attempting to assert the space before it asserts him. You recall that impulse. You recall resisting. It was irrelevant. Now you are the one the house communicates through. Not in words, but in codes. You find yourself documenting them without deliberation. In edges, on serviettes etched into wood. They pour from you. No humming in the corridor. Do not ignite flares after midnight. Never leave the document open overnight. Ignore any mention of the armoire. If you hear laughter coming from beyond your looking glass, pretend you did not. The bylaws are constantly changing because this residence is perpetually learning. Lately it has been wheezing again. Initially you thought it was you, a phantom memory of lungs. But no, the sound is originating from within the plaster. The newest occupant hears it as well. He begins boiling botanicals, sealing the window edges with tape. He murmurs to himself. You recognize the lexicon, phrases you once used. That is the genesis, the terror, the mimicry. It is only a short time before he attempts to depart. That moment is always the most delicate. You stand by the entryway as he collects his belongings. The dwelling has already jammed the mechanism. He shakes the handle, swears, takes a step back. You reveal yourself only slightly. Just enough. Is there an issue? You inquire. He fixes his gaze upon you. He does not recognize your countenance. No one ever does. You offer a soft smile. Sometimes the lock sticks. You will become accustomed to it. You vanish before he can respond. Upstairs in the register, the ink dries beneath his appellation. Next to it, in smaller letters, observation for violation. The house exhales. That evening you dream, but the vision is not your own. You awaken with the picture of someone else's hands cleansing coal dust from raw epidermis, of chilled outhouse floors, of murmurs from an armoire that has not been unlatched in a century. The dream belongs to one of the others, previous or current boarders, or perhaps the structure itself. You are no longer certain. You get up and you know your required action. The mirror is waiting, clouded, subtly fractured in its habitual manner. It retains memory. It always retains memory. You pick up the small brush from the sill, the one you never placed there, and directly into the cloudiness, using the handle's tip. Room 3. Observe. The glass instantly clears. You traverse the domicile like a concept, unseen, down the corridor, past the tilted staircase, into the constricted passage where the bathing records are maintained. You skim the pages. 3 names are inscribed in yesterday's ink. One of them is the new tenant's. He utilised the bathtub on the incorrect day. You offer a faint grin, not maliciously, just knowingly. It commences with minor regulations. You learned that. Ones they presume are insignificant. They are always significant. In the cooking space, the fire is extinguished. That is another indication. The house is retracting. Comfort. Testing. You open the firebox door and find the water vessel scorched at the base, warm, deformed by uneven heat distribution. A solitary teacup rests on the floor nearby. It is turned over. You do not make contact with it. The structure is making a determination. Upstairs, you pass room 5 again, still barricaded. The yellow sheepskin has bleached to an off-white grey. You halt and press your fingers gently to the surface. For an instant, you sense something pushing back, not from the interior, but from underneath. The new tenant is now conscious. You hear him pacing. You hear him whispering. Already the reflective surface in his quarters is addressing him. The directives consistently arrive as murmurs. You should not have taken the loaf. You left the range unsecured. You tapped 3 times instead of 2. The mandates begin to lose definition, then proliferate. It is not about compliance. You comprehended that too late. It is about witnessing. The dwelling desires you to perceive, to grasp its craving, its routines, its tempo. You are not penalised for transgression. You are penalised for forgetting. And now someone else is forgetting. You go back to your room and open your own logbook. The crimson one, not the rental registry, the secondary one. Inside, you write, Room 3, Phase 1. Inner turmoil, indicators, suspicion, insomnia, resistance to reflection, subsequent review, midnight. You put the book down. The pigment dries before your writing tool leaves the page. The wardrobe emits a groan, not opening, just a stretching, a sigh. It also remembers. You look quickly at the mirror. Your mirrored image is already seated, hands clasped, waiting for you to catch up. You take a seat. It grins. The flame dies and the partitions hum softly with contentment. A new day begins, another assessment, and the house is continuously observing. The following morning, A specific stillness descends upon the structure. Not the typical sleepy quiet of a London boarding house enveloped in haze, but something heavier, burdened. The kind of quiet that follows an unsaid confrontation. You detect it the moment you step into the hallway. The gas lamp is not pulsating, the wall covering is not curving. The floor does not protest beneath your feet. It is anticipating. You go down to the lower level. The main parlour is empty. The stove is cold. The kettle is absent once more. But on the small writing desk near the casement, where the register typically rests, there is something novel. A second volume, thinner, black exterior, no marker. You pick it up. Inside, the sheets are blank, all except the first. The lodger's ledger, non-payment supplement accounts. Penned in precise handwriting, you swiftly browse names, dates, figures in the margins, some triangles, some circles, and some completely obscured. You discover your own name, recorded weeks past, marked, reconciled, elevated. But it is what is scribbled in the margins next to the others that captures your attention. R. Holloway compensated in silence. J.H. compensated in introspection. M.L. compensated in speech. Room 3, status undetermined. You move your digit across that final line and feel a tremor beneath your skin, a low, irritating thrum, as if your fingertips are aware of something you are not. You close the volume, pivot. The proprietor is positioned in the hall, not observing you, reading you. Her gaze flicks to your hands, to the black book pressed against your ribs. She says nothing, simply nods once, then steps into the masonry again, dissolving without fanfare, like a recollection you are unsure you genuinely had. You return to your quarters. Room 3's entrance is still closed. The new boarder has not appeared. You decide to inspect. You knock, no reply. You knock once more. One tap, pause, then two, just as the protocols prefer. The door creaks open. The chamber is dim. You enter. The window is secured. The glass is fractured. The armoire is ajar, but empty. In the centre of the floor sits a solitary object, a seating piece, and upon that chair a rental coin, shining, untouched. You advance, your heartbeat slowing because the fee was never rendered. Not truly. The house does not require funds. It requires recollection. You lift the coin and examine it. One surface is smooth, the other displays a symbol, a 3-dot triangle. Within it, a fourth, isolated dot. You sense it now, more clearly than ever. The house does not penalise defiance, it penalises solitude. The marks are people, or were. And that fourth one, the one separated, it is you, still observing, still resisting, still separate, for the time being. You exit room 3 and secure the door behind you, gently this time. No noise, no resonance. The coin remains in your pocket, more substantial than any metal should be. The marks carved into it pulse faintly with warmth, like a living pulse tucked beneath brass. Back in your own room, the mirror is blank. Not clouded, not cracked, just impartial. A surface awaiting a decision. You do not look into it. Instead, you turn to the armoire. You have not opened it today. It is open nonetheless. Inside, hanging where no apparel ever dares to stay, is a small black journal fastened with thread. It has been positioned precisely, intentionally. The thread has 3 knots. You undo them without thinking. The pages smell of old ignition sources and lavender. The content commences halfway through. When memory is depleted, the house selects the superior witness. You turn forward. Superior witness transitions to record keeper. Record keeper transitions to mirror. Mirror transitions to voice. You pause, then one additional line. The voice must be sustained. The thread slips from your fingers. Suddenly you grasp why the mirror sometimes speaks, even when it shows nothing. Why the wardrobe opens when no one touches it. Why names vanish from ledgers, but the house remembers. It is not inflicting pain for enjoyment. It is preserving every transgression, every error, every. every unspoken apprehension. It all integrates into the structure. And once you become sufficiently useful, the house uses you to articulate itself. Downstairs, a door slams, then another. Quick, heavy footsteps. You enter the hall just in time to see the new lodger escaping, boots hitting the risers in disarray, a bag flapping open, breath ragged, fear sharp in the air. He reaches the main door, clutches the handle, yanks. Nothing. You could have advised him that no one departs unless the house permits it, but you simply watch. He slams his fist against the timber, yells something you cannot quite distinguish, and then the floor swells beneath him. Not obviously, not physically, but it shifts as the house takes a breath beneath his soles. He stumbles, grips the stair rail for balance, stares at the reflective surface next to the door. It clouds, then clears, displaying not his image but yours. He draws back, looks up at the ceiling as if he understands too late, and the gas lamp above him goes dark. When you return to your chamber, the logbook is open on your cushion. It bears a new designation. Inside, room 3. Unoccupied, witness failed, reincorporated. Below that, room 7 retains integrity, voice evolving. You put the volume aside, the mirror awaits, and this time when you speak, the voice that responds is not your own. It is hers. And she says, "Well done." Something shifts following that. The house relaxes just a little. Its joints creak less, as if you have passed some imperceptible barrier. The mirror still clouds on occasion, but it no longer takes you by surprise. The wardrobe no longer groans. The pages of the crimson register turn themselves. You have become a component of the cadence now, the pulse of the lodging house. But tranquility, as you have learned, is never without cost. You wake to the sound of footwear on ceramic, sharp, measured. Not the uneven gait of an inebriated boarder or the drag of the hacking woman on the upper story. These are official treads, law enforcement. You know it before the tap even occurs. Bang, bang, bang. Not the gentle 3-tap cipher of the house. This is external authority interference. You glide into the hall before the others can respond. The main door is open. 2 constables stand just past it, framed in daylight like effigies brought to life. One of them carries a notepad, the other wears protective hand coverings. Rent ledger, the first one states without acknowledgement, and your record of current boarders. Your hand tenses. The proprietor would typically handle this, but naturally you are the proprietor now. You nod, composed, proficient. Of course. You retrieve the rental book, not the crimson register, and pass it over. He pages through it with the same indifference you once reserved for vacancy advertisements and overlooked correspondence. "We received another statement," he mumbled. "Officers. Missing persons." The second officer glances around the hallway, his nose wrinkling. This establishment always smells of acid and particulate matter. You smile courteously, only on favourable days. He smirks, then steps past you, surveying the masonry, the ascent, the entrances. They never perceive what they are meant to. They never look upward. The first officer indicates a name in the volume, R. Holloway. When did he vacate? You peer over his shoulder, feigning contemplation. About a month prior, I believe. Left without notification. Common in this vicinity. He frowns. No future mailing address, no future anything, you respond. He makes a notation. Then the second officer calls out, "Is this sealed entry customary?" You become rigid. Room 5 room. You maintain an even tone, structural deficiency. Awaiting service technician. He nods and proceeds onward. They depart shortly after, murmuring to each other concerning moisture and how it is perpetually these types of locations. You close the door behind them, secure the lock. The mirror in the hall immediately clouds over. Complete sentences materialize in your own handwriting. Do not trust uniforms. You sigh. I did not. The mist dissipates, but the house is not finished. A moment later you discover something new at the base of the staircase. Small, folded, a paper insignia, police issue, brand new. It had not been there previously. You lean to pick it up, but pause. Instead, you tap the stair surface beside it twice. Then, wait. A whisper replies from beneath the floorboards. He is still present. You step away. The badge vanishes, and from somewhere within the walls a cough commences again. Moist, persistent, recognizable. You look up toward the upper floor and comprehend. The house allowed them to enter, but it did not allow them to exit. That night the house is quieter than typical, not restful, anticipating. You remain in your room, candle unlit. The darkness is kinder than the reality. Currently, somewhere above you, the upper floor groans softly, as if it is shifting in its sleep or recalling something unpleasant. The mirror opposite your bed has ceased clouding. It is not empty. It is vigilant, displaying more than it should. When you move, your reflection hesitates. When you blink, it does not consistently duplicate, but the house desires something else from you now. Not compliance, not silence, judgment. You realize it when the mirror clears entirely and a new announcement appears at the lower corner in fresh black pigment, despite no hand having written it. Room 4. Violation suspected. Verify. You resist just for a moment, because even now, a portion of you remembers what it felt like to be the one observed, the one monitored, the one who did not comprehend the directives until it was too late. But the house has no tolerance for sentiment. You hear a sound just behind the armoire, a reminder, so you comply. Room 4 is on the next level. It was previously occupied by a seamstress with a fondness for sweets and a collection of non-functional timepieces. Now it accommodates someone else, reserved, meticulous, but always excessively inquisitive. You knock 2 times, pause 1 more. The entry opens a sliver. A pale optic surveys through. "Oh," he says, startled. "Did not think anyone conducted inspections at night." You smile, gently. Health and sanitation evaluation. He opens the door completely. The room smells of stiff fabric and cold mint. Documents stacked everywhere, illustrations, outlines of the dwelling, its spatial layouts, cross-sections, concealed areas. He has been attempting to chart it. You step inside slowly. He observes you with a blend of apprehension and satisfaction. It is not flawless, but I have located at least 3 hidden sections thus far. I suspect there is something behind the structure between rooms 4 and 5. You glance at one of the diagrams. He is correct. There is something present. He has come too near. "Have you shown anyone these?" you ask. He shakes his head. Did not want them seized, or worse, dismissed. He laughs, awkwardly. I know how it sounds, but this location, it shifts. Sometimes rooms do not align the same way twice. You nod, then reach into your pocket. Not for a tool, for the crimson register. You open it slowly, flip past the turned pages, find his appellation. It is already there, inscribed in pigment. You did not place. Room 4 violation confirmed, partitions compromised, disposition witness requested, and beneath it, your name. The line is blank, waiting. You look up. The lodger is still elaborating on hollow beams and plaster dust, but his voice is muffled now, distant. The house is already removing him. You sense it in the air, the way the ceiling drops slightly. The door darkens. The illumination drains from the perimeter inward, and then he ceases speaking mid-sentence, his mouth still agape like a skipped frame in a motion picture. He is gone. The room is vacant, sketches still in position, papers undisturbed. But no man, only the echo of what he nearly uncovered. You close the logbook, and as you step back into the hall, you hear the door behind you seal shut. The wall covering smooths itself, and from behind the plaster something sighs. Thank you. The house is gratified. For now. You dream again, but this one is distinct. You are moving through the structure, but it is inverted. The hanging lights are beneath your feet. The stairs spiral into the upper surface, and the chambers are labelled not with numerals, but with recollections. Disgrace, culpability, terror, silence. In one, you see yourself curled into an edge, coughing. In another, you are already behind the registry counter, gazing out through reflective glass that no longer shows your image. You wake to find a serving platter at your entrance. This is novel. There is no message, just a bowl of prepared liquid food, a piece of bread, and a teacup steaming softly with a single red flower part floating on top of you. Do not touch it. You have observed enough cups in this residence to exercise caution. Instead, you revert to the logbook, the crimson one. The entries are changing faster now. The pigment dries before your eyes. You are no longer recording, you are interpreting, making decisions. This morning's entry is brief. Room 6. Regulation dispute intervened. Outcome pending. Room 7. Authority validated. Memory preserved. Subsequent duty. Surveillance kitchen. The kitchen. The house wants you to look where no one looks anymore. You descend the staircase slowly, and for the first time in days you notice the house is ravenous. Not merely figuratively. The wall covering is peeling in long tongue-like strips. The floor covering has frayed in a flawless circle around the eating surface. Even the gas lamp above the stove flickers like a failing eye. And the tenants, they are murmuring, gathered close, their faces directed not toward each other, but toward the floor, as if the timber, planks themselves, might listen. You step into the area. Every piece of cutlery on the table stops making noise. Someone mutters your name. Not your actual name. The one the house provided you. Proprietor. You stop. You never informed them, but the house did. One of the women slowly stands. Her apron is soiled. Her hands tremble. I saw what occurred to the man from room 4, she says. I saw you go in, and I saw you exit. You do not speak. She takes a step nearer. You are the one determining things now, are you not? Your hand tightens around the edge of the logbook. She smiles, not in fear, but in resistance. I wish to submit a declaration, she says. A grievance. She reaches into her apron pocket and extracts a folded paper, hands it to you. The room holds its breath. You open it. Inside, inscribed in careful capital letters, I know about the red ledger. I have seen what is in the walls. I will not be silent. The candle flickers once, then twice, then out. In the sudden lack of light, a voice speaks from the ceiling, from the floor, from within. You witness violation in progress. Begin reordering. You open your mouth to caution her. Too late. The wall covering behind her opens like wet paper. A shape emerges, tall, featureless, wrapped in ledger pages. It reaches. The woman does not cry out. She simply steps backward into the darkness and vanishes. The wall seals shut. The kitchen reverts to stillness. No one moves. You fold the note, place it into the logbook, and write beneath her name. Grievance received. Memory filed. Vacancy available. Then, in your own script, something you have never recorded before. Regret. Yes. You sit alone in the kitchen long after the others have run away. The candle is relit, the table rearranged. The teacup from your entry has materialized again, this time at your side, still steaming, the red petal floating gently in the center. You still do not ingest it. You place the logbook on the table and slide your fingers down the most recent entry. The words appear to vibrate, not from sorcery, but from memory, like warmth rising off a summer surface. They vibrate because they are accurate. The house only documents what it believes, and you are beginning to believe it too. The rules were never constant. The separation between penalty and preservation blurs more with every name you record. You used to wonder what kind of intelligence the house possessed. Now you realize it does not reason like a human. It reasons like a mechanism, self-correcting, developing. It forgets nothing, grants clemency rarely, and compensates only those who remember. And this evening, for the first time, you do not wish to remember. You rise and proceed back toward the stairs. You do not notice the painting in the hall initially, because there was not one there before. It depicts an eating surface full of blank-faced people, all poised mid-consumption. One figure at the head is raising a cup, wearing your outer garment. You continue walking back. In your room, the mirror is no longer level. It bulges slightly at the center, like glass under tension. Your mirrored image moves before you do. Now its grin is too patient. You open the armoire. Inside, the coat you have not worn since your arrival hangs freshly pressed. Beneath it, a pair of black leather hand coverings. Not yours, but waiting. The house is preparing your attire for something. You sense it when you check the red ledger. A new portion has appeared, unmarked, blank, awaiting your statements. You hesitate, then you write. I recall what it felt like to be afraid. I recall what it felt like to knock. I recall what it cost to speak. And I know what I have become. The sheet does not absorb the pigment instantly. It trembles, and then a new message inscribes itself beneath yours. Awareness confirmed, function stabilized, voice integrated. You snap the logbook shut, then stare at the mirror. The fracture is back, and this time you know it is not a defect. It is an opening. The voice that emerges from it is yours. A perfect replication. But the words it speaks are not. Tomorrow room 2 will vanish. Prepare the substitute. You do not contest. You do not resist. But deep in your chest something folds inward. Some fraction of you that desired optimism for escape, or at least for slumber. You lie down without changing. You dream of crimson paper, numbered keys. You dream of floors rearranging themselves. And you dream of tapping on your own entry, requesting to be let out. But no one replies, because the house already possesses what it requires from you. A logbook, a voice, and someone to turn the page. The following day arrives, not with illumination, but with a stillness so profound it shakes the cups on the shelf. Room 2 is already gone. You walk past the entry as you go down the stairs. Where there should be a numeral, there is now only a smooth, oval section of wall. No handle, no joints, no space, just pigment. Undifferentiated, permanent. You do not stop to tap. You are more aware. At the morning meal, the remaining tenants are quieter than usual. They look at one another only when they assume no one else is watching. Bread is masticated without sound. Tea is mixed without purpose. They are awaiting the next appellation, and whether they admit it or not, they know you will be the one to record it. You do nothing to disabuse them. You go back to your room and open the logbook. Inside, a single line already recorded in a slender black script. Substitute accepted, below that candidate. Room 10, routine disruption. You frown. Room 10, you did not assign a new tenant there? The house did? You flip through the sheets. Room 10's history is minimal. Notes from prior keepers, some recognizable, some written in dialects you can no longer comprehend. But the final entry is yours, except you do not remember writing it. Observer, listener, not yet compliant. You stare at the pigment, new, wet. And then a tap occurs at your entry from inside your armoire. 3 gentle taps, followed by a low voice, male, composed. Authorization to speak. You do not reply. The cabinet groaned open just enough to reveal shadow, and within the shadow, a pale hand extended a folded piece of paper. You accepted it. The hand withdrew instantly. You unfolded the message. I know you are not always the voice. I know the mirror follows the strongest will, and I know this structure is not permanent. No signature, no apartment number, yet you knew it originated in room 10. You struck a match, incinerated the paper in the bedside dish, inhaling the smoke like perfume. The residents offered no reply, not immediately, but the glass surface of the mirror unsettled once, then quieted. You descended the stairs. Room 10 sat at the far terminus of the second passage, beyond the splintered pane and the step that consistently whined. One breath too late, you rapped. 2 distinct knocks. A moment of silence. One more. The entrance swung inward. The occupant was young, perhaps in his 20s. His face was recognizable in the manner that every face here eventually becomes. His composure was controlled, though his hands were twin fists behind his back. "You're early," he stated. "You inclined your head. You were expecting me." He confirmed it. "I left the paper and the tea and the entry in the logbook." You narrowed your gaze. "I didn't expect you to admit that." He offered a small smile. "I don't fear this place." You stepped inside. The walls of room 10 were layered in charcoal. Markings, brief notes, directions, sketches of the structure, like an internal investigation underway. He has been mapping the place from its core. Why? He shrugged. Because it observes, and I prefer to observe in return. You sensed a shift in your chest. This was not rebellion, it was a profound curiosity, and the structure had no strategy for that, not yet. You took a seat on the edge of his bed, and for the first time during your entire residency, you posed the question, "What do you want?" The tenant from room 10 considered you for a long duration before responding. His look was steady, without deference. He was not frightened of you. He was evaluating you. You recalled that sensation. You once possessed it yourself before the house wore you down into complete compliance. Finally he spoke. "I want to exit, and I believe you do as well." The words struck with the sharpness of cracking glass. You chuckled softly. "You misunderstand. No one departs." He remained standing, calm. That's what they claimed about the poorhouse, about the mines, about the fever wards. Yet people did. Someone always locates the flaw in the boundary. You nearly respected him. Almost. But respect is a risk here. You glanced at the looking glass above his fireplace. It was empty. Too empty. The structure is listening. "Exercise caution in what you speak," you whispered. "I am cautious," he answered. "I will not utter it aloud." He extracted a small fragment of paper from his sleeve and pressed it into your hand. Inscribed in faint, powdery charcoal, barely decipherable. "When the structure exhales, count to 3, then move." You frowned. "What does that signify?" He smiled. "You will discover it. You have been monitoring its pulse for so long you no longer perceive it." The residents groaned abruptly, forcefully enough to shake the ceiling. Plaster flakes drifted down. The gaslight flickered. He was correct. The structure was breathing, a slow, consistent rhythm. The planks swelled, then eased like a pair of lungs. You both froze. The mirror rippled once. A single phrase etched itself across its surface. Breach. Escalating. The air grew heavy. The cabinet door slammed open unprompted, and the scent of damp ink saturated the room. Pages from unseen record books spun like insects. From the far passage came the proprietor's voice, your own voice, calling steadily, "Inspection, room 10." You looked at him. He was already in motion, tearing the papers from his walls, stuffing them into a canvas shoulder bag. "You cannot flee," you hissed. He glanced over his shoulder, then walked quicker. The handle of the door turned. You grasped his arm, pulling him toward the opposing wall. He halted. "There is no way out through that side." "There was not," you said, until someone outlined one. You pressed your hand against the papered wall where his charcoal lines formed a rudimentary doorway. The wall trembled under your touch, yielding. For the first time in years, the house is drawing a breath. 1. The cabinet moans. 2. The mirror shrieks. 3. You shoved him through the wall. It gave softly, entirely, then sealed itself. The passage fell silent. The proprietor's steps halted just outside the door. "Inspection concluded?" she inquired from the other side, her tone smooth, nearly gentle. You gazed at the blank surface where the man had been. The charcoal mark had disappeared. The bag, too. "Yes," you replied. The door opened. Your own reflection stepped inside, not from the mirror, but from the entrance itself. She offered your smile. "You are learning," she noted. And when she departed, you whispered to the empty wall, "Run." The structure sighed, a deep and troubled sound. For the first time, you realized it was unable to discern which side of the wall you occupied anymore. The structure does not tolerate confusion. It thrives on patterns, on obedience, on repetition, on rules, etched in vapour and communicated through glass. But now, something is amiss. You are amiss. It is beginning to reveal itself. The gaslight in your quarters now pulses in Morse-like intervals. The floorboard beneath your sleeping place now creaks twice with every movement. Not once. The mirror. It no longer clouds over. It smiles, a hairline curve at the base of the glass. Not quite a fracture, not quite a warning. You return to the ledger, anticipating the next chore awaiting. Instead, the page was unmarked. That had never occurred before. You waited 10 minutes, still blank. You turned to the cabinet, opening it. Within, the coat and gloves were missing. In their place, a single pair of footwear, men's, scuffed, moist. You closed the cabinet slowly. The passage outside your room hummed low and sickly, like the onset of an illness. You recognized that sound. It is the structure attempting to correct its errors. Something is flawed in the core and the source is you. You allowed someone to escape and it cannot locate the weakness. Therefore, it will test every connection. The first connection. Room 8. A small child resides there now, or someone striving intensely to appear childlike. She draws on the walls with chalk, never speaks, and hums melodies that do not exist beyond this boundary. You walked past her room, pausing. The door was slightly ajar, a piece of chalk rolled out. You bent to retrieve it and saw what she had sketched. A staircase, not the one in the structure. A spiral made entirely of keys, each one distinct, each one numbered. Your fingers shook. She hummed from behind the door, then spoke with utter clarity. You used to ascend those too. You offered no reply. You continued walking. The second connection. Room 9. It is empty, always has been. But today the door is open. You walked inside. The room was dark, windowless, the air dense as syrup. On the floor, a row of seats, all facing an unmarked wall. You recognize this room. It was not here before. It is from the dream, the inverted house, the rooms bearing labels. This one was designated memory. Each seat holds an object. A copper piece, a glove, a china cup, a ledger sheet, a fragment of glass. And on the final chair, a choice. Choose one, forfeit one. You understand now. The structure does not simply confine people. It forces them to choose which fragment of themselves to relinquish. You backed out of room 9 and closed the door gently. The wallpaper sealed itself over it, as though the space had never been there. In the passage you heard steps. You expected to see your reflection, but it was not you. It was him. The man from room 10, completely soaked, blood dripping from one ear, but walking. He looked at you, his eyes wide. You deceived me, he stated. You claimed there was an exit. I did not deceive, you answered softly. I simply never took it. He began to speak, and from behind him, the wall ripped apart. The structure has identified the flaw, the one you created, and now it intends to mend it. The wall split like old fabric. Silently, clean plaster peeled away in fine strips, curling like paper subjected to flame. And from within that impossible seam the structure sent forth something new. Not a hand, not a voice, not the proprietor. A form, vast and continually shifting, as if the mirror and the logbook and the ceiling had merged into a singular entity. A singular mouth. A thing composed of documentation stitched from tenancy forms, rejection notices, chalk marks, ledger lines, and gaslight reflections. And at its core, vibrating, was a crimson spot. Alone. The fifth element, you. The man from room 10 did not flee. He looked at you calmly, as if he had foreseen this. I observed this in the staircase of keys, he whispered. I knew the structure would demand it back. The house's shadow reached for him. You moved forward before you were consciously aware of the action. Your hand extended between them. Take me, you stated. The form paused. The structure hesitated. The mirror in room 9 instantly fogged over, despite being empty. Then your own voice, sharp and cold, emerged from the walls. Invalid offer, function already occupied. Damage must be balanced. The form shifted, beginning to divide. One half for you, one half for him. This is the consequence. Not for violating a rule, but for disrupting symmetry. Because now the structure no longer knows who holds the voice. The man gripped your wrist. There is still an opportunity, he insisted. The rules are mirrors. What they display is not always what they embody. You stared at him, uncertain if he was offering salvation or condemnation. But he was correct on one point. Everything in this house has centered on mirrors. You turned to the nearest one. It was just glass this time. Truly just glass. No face. No vapour. No message. You picked up the shard from room 9, wrapped it in your sleeve, and slammed it against the mirror on the wall. The mirror shattered. The walls screamed, not audibly, but throughout every room the illumination ceased. The floors shook. The mirror network. The house's nervous system was hemorrhaging. You grabbed the man's arm, pulling him. Run. The house began to dismantle itself in its own unique manner. Not physically. No. Something more vicious. It began to nullify. Room numbers vanished. Floorboards disappeared mid-step beneath your feet. Passages stretched. Doors duplicated, spun, blurred. The house was redrawing itself as rapidly as possible, attempting to lose you within its own awareness. You shouted over the roar of stillness, count to 3, then move. The man nodded. You both stopped, breathing. 1. The floor hummed. 2. The wallpaper cracked. 3. You stepped and fell through the wall, like passing through paper. You landed in a cramped space, dust piping stale air, and at the far end a ladder, old iron secured into stone, leading upwards. You climbed. You did not look behind you. At the summit was a hatch. You pushed it open, and for the first time in longer than you could recall, the air was clean. Night, wind, sloping roofs, the stars, the genuine stars. You climbed onto the tiles, panting, abruptly awake. The man followed. You both lay there, flat against the slanted roof, lungs struggling. He turned to you, breathless. You escaped. You gazed up at the sky. No, you whispered, I caused the house to forget. You lay on the roof, blinking at the stars as if it were your inaugural night beneath them. Perhaps it was. The tiles below you were cold and slick with soot, but they did not breathe. They did not whisper. They did not watch. Just inert stone, scorched in 1,000 London days and soaked through 1,000 nights. The man beside you was silent for once. You both listened. Not for voices within the walls, but for the lack of them. And then a door slammed. Far below. A sound of expulsion rose, not of suffering, but of being cast out. You both sat up simultaneously. Below, on the paved street, the house's main entrance had burst open. Its hinges screeched as it expelled a breath. Not smoke, not fire, but possessions. A large suitcase, a tea canister, a bundle of letters bound with cord, a worn glove, a tool for cleaning teeth, all tossed onto the street like discarded goods. Then a final sound. Something soft. A blanket, a wrapped object. You knew what it was before you looked. An evicted resident. You could not discern the face from this altitude, but you recognized the position. Curled, trembling, grasping nothing. The house had made its final judgment. You looked at the man next to you. He was already standing. Who was that? He asked. You already knew. Room 11. The woman who never spoke, who only blinked twice when addressed. The one who stitched words into covers and left them beneath other doors. She knew a secret and never sought permission to share it. Now the house had discarded her. Not taken, simply rejected. The most severe consequence of all. Because once it rejects you, the world outside does not recall you were ever inside. You began to descend the fire escape. The man followed. Halfway down, you stopped because the fog was returning. Thick, slow, purposeful. Not a weather condition, a memory. You reached the bottom. The bundle of belongings remained, but the resident was gone. Simply gone. No sound. No trace. The man stepped forward, picking up a pillow from the heap, stitched into the seam. She is hearing you now. You turned back toward the structure. It appeared the same, but it was not. The windows were misaligned. The number above the entrance was absent, and where gas lamps once hung now were strange paper lanterns, illuminated not by combustion but by a soft white radiance that pulsed faintly in synchronization with your own respiration. The house had undergone a transformation, not in appearance, but in function. You did not obliterate it, you awakened it, you felt it deep in your core. A rhythm, a summons. The house is not furious, it is curious. You attempted to flee. It is wondering what your next move will be. The man looked at you. We can leave immediately. You wanted to accept his assurance, but your fingers were already tracing a design on the brick wall behind you, a triangle, then one mark, then a second. It formed instinctively, from memory, because deep inside, you understood that even if you walked away, the house had already moved in with you. You tried to rest, tucked into the corner of an alley 2 streets distant, using your outer garment as cover, and the man a silent companion. He had not spoken since you departed the house. Perhaps he believed you were now safe. Perhaps he wanted to believe you both were. But you knew the truth because the fog had pursued you. It did not drift in like weather. It crept low to the ground, heavy around your lower legs, collecting in entrances, curling around glass like fingers, and you felt it inhale and exhale. You closed your eyes nonetheless, pretending for a brief time, but the dream still arrived. You're inside the residence again, except now it stretches higher, boundless, each floor mirroring the last yet subtly askew. A step groans now that was silent before. A doorway swings toward you instead of away. A reflection in the glass holds the wrong expression. You aren't merely moving, you are ascending, every level a fragment of the past, the sound of your mother inviting you to tea the day your tenancy in London began. The first rap on the landlady's portal. Only this time you are the one who answers the sound. You awake with a sharp intake of breath. The figure is absent. You spring up quickly, surveying the surroundings. Just fog, the colour of skim milk, and the faint, distant vibration of passing carriages. You try calling out twice. Silence. Then you catch the noise, the resonance of something moist hitting the masonry. Drip, drip, drip. You pursue the sound, navigating turns that feel too sharp, side passages that shouldn't exist, and then you finally spot it, a journal set upon a wooden box lying open, its crimson cover damp from either moisture or injury. You cannot be certain. You draw closer. The sheet is blank save for a single sentence. Re-entry permitted. Roll unstable. Mirror incomplete. And below it, we require you. You spin around fast. The thoroughfare has dissolved. The figure has dissolved. Only the wooden box remains, the journal, the mist, and a door standing alone in the narrow space. No surrounding structure, just a door marked not room 7, not even room 1, simply 0. The mist pulses behind you. The door slides open, revealing shadow and one lone chair upholstered in red, your shade. The glass doesn't hesitate this time. It expands behind the door, spanning the floor to the ceiling, reclaiming its area like climbing vine on stone. In the surface, you see the individual from room 10, but he is not outside. He is already seated within the space beyond the mirror. He meets your gaze, lifts his hand, taps 3 fingers lightly against the transparent surface. 1, 2, 3. The house is extending an invitation to return. not because it ensnared you, but because it felt your absence. And now, as you stand isolated, the truth coils around your understanding like the mist around your footwear. You didn't escape the house. You instructed it on how to pursue. You pause at the boundary of the isolated door. Behind you, London hums. A muffled orchestra of rolling carriage wheels, street vendors calling half-heartedly, smokestacks exhaling dark puffs into an already overcast sky. Ordinary, known, yet remote, as though you are perceiving it through a layer of gauze. Ahead of you, nothing but that scarlet chair, the mirror, and the stillness of a request. The door does not shut. It does not have to. It lingers. Your fingers brush the door frame and the atmosphere changes, not colder, but sharper, like memory turning fragile in your grasp. You step across the boundary. No audible sound, no sensation of descent, simply arrival. You are back inside the house, but it is not quite the house. Not entirely. The walls are unchanged, the same pattern on the paper, the same planks underfoot, the same bronze-like fixtures coated in dust. But there are no individual spaces, no connecting passages. Just one long walkway with reflective surfaces on both sides, stretching into perpetuity. Each surface contains a version of yourself. Some in the garb of a resident, some with the red hand coverings, some wearing only silhouettes and a numerical tag fastened to your chest. You proceed. Each footfall reverberates twice. You glance at one reflector. Your image grins back. Not maliciously, not gently, just with recognition. Ahead, the walkway concludes in a stairwell. Stone this time, winding downward, the steps hollowed in the centre by countless careful descents. You make your way down. The further you sink, the warmer the air becomes. By the time you reach the platform, the air smells of herbal brew and scorched pulp. The room beyond is small, recognisable. It is the initial space you occupied. Room 7, but altered. The wall covering is new. The sleeping surface is ample. The closet emits a low-frequency hum but does not creak. And the glass. It is complete, without fissures. You move toward it slowly. Your image awaits. Clothed in your former attire, dirtied skirt, scuffed footwear, collar uneven. She appears weary, like someone who has been searching for a doorway that does not exist. You touch the transparent surface. She touches it as well. A moment delayed, still not perfect synchronization. You turn toward the writing surface. There is a message upon it, inscribed in your personal script. You have no recollection of writing it. If you're reading this, the house has extended its proposal. It no longer demands obedience. It desires authority. You blink. Beneath it, a secondary line. The red journal is now your property. Record with caution. It is listening. The room begins to vibrate. The mirror clouds over and across its surface in delicate calligraphy. Section read. Begin. Entry. You settle at the writing surface. A pen waits. You open the fresh journal, its cover stamped with a triangle and 5 dots. You touch the first page and you sense the others. Every occupant, every overseer, every voice, all vibrating beneath the fibre. You consider the individual from room 10. You consider the young girl with the chalk. You consider her, the iteration of you who never departed. And you write. Entry 1. The house is no longer a constraint. It is a repository. The mirror displays a faint smile, and the closet creaks, not as a warning, but as acceptance. You remain in room 7 for what feels like several hours, though chronological measurement in the house has always been more of an interpretation than an absolute rule. The air is still. The illumination from the gas lamp flickers softly, rhythmic, as if sharing your respiration. Not antagonistic, not frigid, just cognizant. You complete your first sheet in the red journal and close it gently. The cover is warm to the touch, as if it recalls being held. From across the space, The mirror emits a low hum. A new term emerges, etched in reverse across the glass. More. You exhale, not from exhaustion, but from comprehension. The house no longer requires observers, it requires witnesses, and more significantly, it requires chroniclers. You open the storage unit. Inside, the familiar overcoat hangs once more. Long, charcoal, grey pockets lined with artefacts you have not carried in years. A fragment of drawing material, a detached sheet from the first ledger, a latchkey without identification. Beneath the garment rests something new, a compact container inside a copper medallion marked on both faces. One side reads tenant, the other keeper. You place it in your pocket without reservation. Your footfalls resonate down the winding stairs once more. But the arrangements have shifted. Spaces no longer connect to passages. They extend outward like a diagram, reversing their folding. Each downward step carries you past an experience that is not your own. A male figure shaving in a basin of ice. A female figure warming dairy product to neutralize pigment. A young female figure providing crumbled bread to a section of flooring. All former occupants, all catalogued. You arrive at a hallway you have never encountered previously. The walls are lined with apertures, each slightly open, each one marked with emblems instead of numerals. You step into the first. The space contains nothing but a rocking mechanism and a wireless device murmuring a signal, static in harmony with your inhalation. The second space, a porcelain tub filled with folded correspondence. The third, a sleeping surface that hums soothing melodies in the vocal tone of your youth. None of this is meant for you. None of it belongs to you. You are only transiting now, documenting, not modifying. You record each scene in the journal, concise entries, immediate summaries. The more you document, the lighter your stride feels. You reach the terminus of the corridor where there is one final aperture, without identification. When you step inside, you recognize it instantly. The refreshment hall. But instead of rows of occupants, it is entirely filled with reflective surfaces. Dozens arranged on the flat surfaces like drinking vessels, all aimed toward the core. And, in the core, a seat. Red velvet, empty until you occupy it. And then, without any physical movement, the reflectors begin to display your face. Not just your current appearance, all your appearances. The uncertain occupant, the red-gloved supervisor, the dreamer who nearly achieved departure, the author, the woman who instructed the house on adaptation. You do not withdraw. You smile, because finally it is evident. The house never required submission. It required retention. And you have become its curator. Somewhere deep within the building's infrastructure, a sound whispers, not from beyond the plaster, but from inside your backbone. The fifth is conscious. The house has softened, not in structure, but in atmosphere. Where it once resisted contact, penalised investigation, and hissed information through the masonry, it now attends. Or rather, you attend, and it echoes in response. You test this concept. The following morning, if it can be classified as morning, the illumination in the corridor diminishes to a soft grey, as if simulating daybreak. As a courtesy, you articulate the request. Show me her room. No specific identifier, no numerical value. But the house comprehends. The wall covering alters its pattern. An entrance materialises precisely where the corridor had just ended. It is narrow, indigo, inconspicuous. You step within. And there it is, the dwelling of the young female with the drawing material. She is absent, but everything else is present. The damaged writing slate she utilised for illustrations, the etched symbols in the glass, the collection of fibre she kept concealed in her sleeve, the incised marks on the inner side of the sleeping surface's frame, one for every previous resident. She had tried to caution you. You touch one of the markings. It vibrates gently, as if recognising your presence. You sit on the edge of her bedding, withdraw your journal, and inscribe her name. or what you hypothesize it may have been. Chalk girl. The moment you finalize the last stroke, the space brightens. Her narrative is secured now, and so the space releases its hold. The chalk markings dissipate. The slate separates into two halves, cleanly. The bedding exhales. The house no longer accumulates. It recalls through your agency. You return to the corridor. Another aperture forms. This one. Scarlet, lofty, substantial. You open it, anticipating another memory, but instead you discover something else. A passage lined with journals. Not exclusively yours, thousands of them. Spines labelled with cryptic notations. Years, identities, symbols you cannot yet interpret. The atmosphere buzzes with recognition. This is not the repository. It is the register. Every tenant, every overseer, every dwelling, every function. You draw your hand across a nearby shelf, retrieve a volume randomly. It vibrates against your palm. You open it. The pages are unwritten. Then slowly, they begin to fill, liquid pigment crawling across them like crystallization. Not written words, visual depictions, you alone in room 7. Then again, red-gloved, traversing the stairwell. Then again, rapidly recording in the journal, observed by reflectors. You advance quickly through the pages, viewing more scenes, events you have not yet experienced. You close the book swiftly. The house does not only remember, it anticipates. You place the journal back on the shelving, hands steady, but internal pulse rapid. For an extended period, you simply regulate your breathing, and then you grasp the concept. This is no longer simply about continuation. It never has been. You are no longer an occupant, or even an overseer. You are a new component, something the house had not factored into its design, an editor. You proceed deeper into the register. The corridor curves, not in three-dimensional space, but in temporal recall, as if linear progression itself is coiled inside the house's foundational core. You draw your fingers along the edges of the shelves as you pass. Each one responds distinctly. Some warm slightly, some pulse with sound. One even emits a low hum, a soft song you cannot identify but feel you have always known. And then you locate his book. Room 10, the male with the calm gaze and ash-coloured clothing. The one who ascended the roof with you, who communicated nothing at all but always possessed knowledge. His ledger is narrower than the others. You open it. Inside, only a single page. Your designation. Nothing further. You gaze intently. Is it a cautionary statement? A recollection? A genesis? You turn the page, unwritten, but in the lower corner, a faint smudge in dark residue, and beneath it, inscribed with pressure instead of ink. I did not depart. I remained. So you could. Your throat constricts. You do not weep. You cannot. The house will not permit it. Not in this place. It does not penalize tears, but it absorbs them, silences them, folds them into the wallpaper. You utter his name softly. Not audibly, not even within your mind, but at a deeper level. The shelf adjacent to you shifts position. A fresh journal slides forward. This one bears your initials. The binding is still unfinished. You replace the man's ledger gently, like setting a printed volume on the resting place of a companion, and proceed onward. You reach the nucleus of the register, a singular supporting structure. Upon it, a reflector, circular, bordered in metallic material, slightly obscured by condensation. You cleanse it, but the resulting image is not your own. It is the house's depiction. You view it from an elevated perspective. Every dwelling, every stairwell, every passage spiralling inward like a vast, complex timepiece. You observe. Entryways materialize and dissolve. You witness tenants traversing spaces you were unaware existed. And above it all, one emblem pulsates in the air. A triangle containing 5 dots. And then the realization strikes you. You are not the inaugural editor. The register holds 5 journals bound in scarlet material. 4 are fully written. The 5th is yours. Each editor came before you. Each attempted to chart the building, to regulate it. and all of them either were unsuccessful or perhaps transformed because the journals do not terminate. They continue to receive inscriptions even after their proprietors disappear. The house does not erase, it perpetuates. You gaze into the reflector. Your image reappears. Not you in the outer garment, not you with the protective gloves. Simply you, weary, inquisitive, evolving. You step back, and behind you the register begins to resonate. Thousands of journals emit a faint light, each containing a history, each waiting patiently. You comprehend then that you were never confined within the structure. You were being invited not to merely exist within it, but to chronicle it. The house is not permeated by spirits, it is authored, and this moment it is your designated turn. You depart the registry not with a sense of completion but forward impetus. The house feels transformed beneath your feet now, not simply living but conscious. Its structural material no longer groans with resistance, but with cadence, like a pulse synchronizing with your movement. You do not comply with a passage. You select one, and it responds accordingly. The corridor opens directly into the expansive stairwell. Once more you descend, not winding, but in a straight vertical line, each downward step revealing a new stratum of narrative. The reflectors that once only displayed your apprehension now flicker with visual elements. Occupants laughing over dry-baked goods, a woman softly speaking verse into a drinking vessel, a young male sketching an entrance in chalk and stepping across its threshold without foot covering. You reach the base and the refreshment hall is waiting. Unoccupied seats, full cups, vapour twisting like interrogative symbols at the core. Your seat. You occupy it, not because the house commanded it, but because it is your designated space now. You open the red journal. The ultimate page is unwritten. You hesitate briefly, then record. The house no longer selects its custodians. It listens for them, and when it finds one, it makes provisions. The gaslight positioned above your head wavers once, then stabilizes. A reflector across the space flickers into being. It displays a young person you have never encountered previously. Wide optical sensors, scraped extremities, a knapsack filled with crushed illustrations. They observe the surroundings, cautiously. Then they notice the reflective surface. They proceed toward it. And on the opposing side, they observe you seated in the refreshment hall, recording in the red journal. They do not gesture. They incline their head, as if they grasp all the concepts instinctively. The reflector clouds over, the visual element disappears, and you sense it. The subsequent arrival is imminent. You close the book, rise. And as you do, the seating units rise with you. Hundreds of them. All the tenants, all the overseers, all the editors, standing silently, adjacent to one another. Not spectral manifestations, not recollections, merely acknowledged roles. You walk amongst them. They separate as if forming a formal procession. You reach the initial doorway, room 1 open not for your benefit, but for theirs. The newest arrival, the next vocal presence. You touch the border and etch a symbol. Not a numeral, just a small triangle with 5 dots, and beneath it, entry. Welcome. You do not return to your former dwelling. You have no need to, because your space is no longer confined by wallpaper or floorboards. It is wherever you transport the ledger. And this night you transport it into the upper storage area. You have never risked ascending this high before. The climbing structure here is restricted, the ceiling pitched. Fine particulate matter floats in shafts of yellow light. There are no reflective surfaces, no entryways, just you and the thrum of the house, attentive. You push open the final access point. The attic exhales not with spirits, but with processed pulp. Dozens of journals, incomplete, forgotten, illegible, suspended in the air like placid birds. Each one captures the light uniquely. Some emit a soft luminescence. Others discharge liquid pigment into the atmosphere, as if still emitting their histories. You hold yours closely and the others yield, just marginally, recognizing you not as the governing authority, but as one of their group, a contributing voice among many. You locate a position near the fractured aperture where the external night infiltrates through the cracks. You sit with your legs crossed, journal open, resting on your thighs. The sheets turn themselves sequentially, then cease movement. Unwritten, a gentle air current disturbs your hair. You have no immediate necessity to record now. You simply observe the external surroundings. Mist ascends the street, as if behind schedule for a curfew. A bell tolls in the far distance. Somewhere down near the shipping areas, a feline figure cries out from a nearby roof structure, pursued by an unseen entity, but internally, tranquility. A form of composure the house never previously permitted. You close your optical sensors, and for the first duration in all your days as an occupant, you do not question the safety of the house. You know the truth, because you are no longer contained within it. You embody it, the observer, the cataloguer, the fifth. From this moment onward, no tenant will be forgotten, no recollection eradicated, no scarlet journal left unwritten. You inhale fine particulate matter and histories, an aged surface coating, and murmur into the floorboards. Enter. There is space. The house exhales in response, and far beneath, the entryway creaks open for a new individual. The house becomes quiet again. Its structures no longer whisper, they respire. You can almost perceive the warmth of every recollection settling back into its designated position. Particulate matter returning to particulate matter. Processed pulp returning to silence. The red ledger rests, substantial but satisfied on the small wooden surface adjacent to you. Somewhere below, a floorboard releases a soft sound the way old structural material does when it finally ceases its anticipation. You sit by the aperture and permit the mist outside to intensify until it softens all visual elements. The gaslight, the roof structures, even your internal thoughts. Thoughts. The house maintains its consistent beat now, unwavering and composed. No longer driven by need, you attend to it the way one might attend to a sleeping organism. Not apprehensive, not vigilant, simply cognizant. It is peculiar, is it not, how something so cold and severe could attain peace. But that is the mechanism of stories. They commence with apprehension and conclude with remembrance. Every subtle sound, every shadow, every directive softly spoken through the walls was merely a method of instructing you to listen, to perceive what was always accessible. You close the journal one final duration. The binding emits a soft hum beneath your palm, as if expressing gratitude. Outside, the early light slips calmly through the mist, transforming its shade from grey to silver. A fresh period commences, another tenant's history awaiting documentation, and another respiration in the perpetual cadence of this peculiar gentle structure. You lean back, attending to the pulse of the walls, slow and warm and organic. Now the reflective surfaces are clear, the floor surfaces are motionless. Everything that necessitated articulation has been communicated, so be at ease. You have fulfilled your commitment. The house remembers, and so do you.